There are so many different ways to market and sell your beats online now. It's almost overwhelming, but a lot of us have trouble figuring out the best strategy for ourselves. For example, I never thought that making beat remakes and uploading them to YouTube would be a path to getting placements. However, after having this conversation, my perspective changed entirely. So in this conversation, which was a free music business mentorship session on the Music Entrepreneur Club powered by BeatStars, we have them twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. on BeatStars.live. I talked to Major League Beats, who has just hit the 7 million view mark on his YouTube channel. He's gone viral with a couple beats, sold a lot of beats online, and gotten major placements. And he gives us some really good tips for getting placements and for selling beats and for labeling beats. And these are methods that I don't think I've touched on in any other video. So enjoy, but you know, if you haven't tuned into the live sessions, try to make one. They're free. Free is good. Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. You started making beats about 7 years ago. You've been playing piano for a while. How long have you been making music for a living?
Full time, probably about two years, maybe a little bit longer than 2 years. Like
so I know a lot of people are at this point in their life where they're not sure how to get to that stage they want to. You know, it's a big risk. It's scary to quit your job. What was your story like around the time when you decided that you were just going to go full time? What position were you in life that allowed you to make that choice?
I was at work one day. I kid you not, I was at work and I had this warehouse job. I was making pretty good money. I'd been there for a little while. And it was getting to the point to where like I was making my 2-week salary or monthly salary in like a couple of days. Like I was at work selling beats. And so I was like, all right, brother, like it's kind of pointless. You know what I mean? Like, and then I would have to leave work to go home and work on projects and spend a lot of time knocking out records. And I was kind of tired from work, so it was kind of like a drag. And then it was just like, bro, you're making way more money selling beats than you are here. So it was like, all right, now it's about time. And then the YouTube started to pick up as well. So I was like, all right, it's about that time.
Did you have some money saved up in anticipation of making that transition, or was it kind of a decision that you made at the moment and you just said, I'm just gonna make this work?
I had some money put to the side that I was making from like beats and stuff, and I had some money I had just saved, period, from life. And I was like, yo, we're just gonna give it a try for like 6 months. Let's see what it do. You know, like if it don't hit, then you know we'll go back or whatever. But I just gave it a try. It was like, I mean, I had, you know, a decent amount of money, and I was like, you're making more money doing this while you're here at work. It's just kind of pointless. And so it was about that time where it was like, all right, bro, let it go.
So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, let's say, before you quit your job, you said you were making a fair amount of money off of beats. What was the source of that income mostly, in terms of just musical money?
YouTube was heavy. YouTube sales and Instagram DMs, like mostly Instagram DMs. Like a lot of people were just like, yo, bro, I seen your beats on YouTube, or I heard about this, I heard about that. Let's work on the project. Let's do this. And that's really where the money just started coming in heavy.
Got it. And so right now, beyond just working on musical projects and beat licensing, you have multiple revenue streams.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those revenue streams beyond just selling beats online?
Most of it is through music, like owning a studio, working at a studio here in Houston. I don't own it, but I run this studio here in Houston. So a lot of people just coming in for recording time. I engineer as well. I have my merch going on YouTube as well. My father owns a moving company. I help push that and promote that as well. And so, you know, I get out here and do a few other things as well. It's a blessing.
How did you learn to engineer?
YouTube mostly, and being in the studio with great engineers. In like 2012, 2013, a good friend of mine, Brodini, he used to engineer a lot of like the up and coming artists out here in Houston, from the Sauce Walkers, the Sosa Mans, and like I would just be in the studio with him every day. And be like, bro, this is how you compress this vocal, this is how you do this is how you EQ, da da da. Da. So I would just practice on my own. And then I kind of got good enough to, just record as well.
So a lot of producers naturally want to learn how to engineer, whether it's making their own beats sound better or whether it's, becoming a tracking, mixing kind of engineer, vocal production, all that. In your experience as both a beat maker and an engineer, are there essential pieces of studio gear, or is that just kind of a myth?
Man, it's crazy. I've seen people do it without it and with it. You know what I mean? So I won't say it's a myth, but I've seen people mix records at the crib with like literally nothing but headphones. You know what I mean? Like, or record a record at the crib. And I've been in major studios and big studios with a lot of gear, and the mixes, it's okay. So, I mean, you just got to make it happen with what you have. I think we see it every day with a lot of younger kids as well who are just talented. Sometimes you got the ear, and I've seen people make it happen with just the computer and some headphones.
For you, what's your process like? Do you prefer to mix in headphones? Do you prefer to mix in a particular type of monitor?
I like to mix at the studio just for different sound fields of hearing things. I don't mind mixing in headphones, but it's not gonna be like my final mix. My ears just don't work with headphones that well. Like, I definitely like speakers.
Which speakers are your favorite?
The Yamaha HS7s. I think we've all had a pair of KRKs at some point in our career early on. We have the events here. I like using those a lot. Really, really crisp sound. So I really like the events a lot. But the HS7s, the newer ones, Yamahas are dope.
So you're currently in the studio that you run?
Yeah, I'm in the studio as we speak.
Okay. Are you there every day? I mean, you're treating it like a 9 to 5 where you have office hours there?
I'm in here every day from 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 7, sometimes 10 to 7, but I definitely run it like a 9 to 5 all day, every day.
And are you making beats while you're there as well, or just running sessions?
Yeah. I make beats every day. Some days I'm running sessions. But even if I have sessions, in between sessions or before my sessions, I'm making beats for sure. I'm cooking up every day.
Does being an engineer help you with regard to selling beats and connecting with more artists?
Absolutely connecting. I'll get people who come in here and just want to record, and I might be working on something when they get here, and they're like, "Yo, what beat is that?" Woo woo woo, and I'll be, "Oh yeah, I produced too," and then I'll pull up some tracks, and it definitely brings more sales for sure.
All right, we got a question coming in. Matt Perry wants to know what some tips you have for setting the vibe in the studio might be.
I think, like, first and foremost, people would just want to come in a clean environment and just feel like it's dope and it's clean and it feels good in here. I normally keep the temperature, the cooler temperature. I have like candles in the studio a lot of times. Just makes it feel good. Like these lights change colors. I'll set the tone of the room. It just feels like people comfortable when they walk in the room. Definitely. Just kind of set the vibe.
Now we got a bunch of questions in. So from your experience, is sending beats to engineers to have in their stash for when an artist pulls up actually a thing, or is it just an urban legend?
If you have a relationship with engineers, it definitely works. I have a few really good friends out in Atlanta who they'll be like, "Hey, yo, I'm working with so-and-so next week. Send me a pack." Or, "Hey, I'm working with so-and-so for the next 3-4 days. Send me some joints." Because what a lot of people don't know is a lot of artists do go in the lab and they'll just run through beats. Hey, bro, pull up the beats that the other boy sent. Pull up the beats that whatever you got. Pull this up, and they'll just go through till they find a vibe, and then they'll record.
What kind of advice could you give producers for networking with engineers and building that level of a relationship where they can send them packs for when they have upcoming sessions?
Don't walk in the studio and ask them for that. Just build a relationship with them. Just vibe with them just on a personal level. I think that's the easiest thing with anybody in the music industry. Everybody is looking for something or trying to, piggyback, I would say, off the next person, or just looking for an opportunity. Just vibe with people. Like literally all my relationships with engineers have been just, I was there for something else. And, we just laugh and talking, might be talking about football, might be talking about people who just laugh. Like, the last session was dope and just vibe. And then, like, oh, bro, what you be doing? Are you produced? Whoop. And then next thing you know, you got a plug.
Yeah, my very first big placement was through an engineer. So I feel like that's oftentimes the last person a producer will think of in terms of their networking.
Absolutely. They're key. They're definitely key.
Let me see if we have any more. Trill hitter, that's kind of a really vague question, so I'm afraid to ask it. So it's how do I get my beats out there more?
Okay.
I mean, if you want to take that, yeah, that's what I thought. If you can specify it, I mean, we're going to talk more obviously about that, and we're going to talk about your specific strategies and what's been working for you. Let's address the elephant in the room. Hopefully, we can talk about this. There's a clip of J. Cole in the studio recording one of your beats that got posted on Instagram. So it was public, right? I can talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay, cool. Start at the beginning. What went down? What led up to that?
So I'm in a group. I'm in a conglomerate with Tone P, who's produced, multiple platinum records for Wale and stuff like that, and Ross and a lot of other people. And like we literally just send packs back and forth throughout the week. And so we had just done a record with Miguel not too long ago. And I heard the beat again, and he was like, he kind of sent me like the little awkward face emoji. He was like, I might have something else for this. And I was like, okay, bet. And then I got that video and they were in the lab and I was like, oh shit, like it's crazy. So that was, and I sent it to you like personally. I was like, you don't person like I sent it to directly. I was like, yo, Payne, look, bro. Like a kid. I was excited.
No, you got to be excited for that kind of stuff. Otherwise, why are we doing this? Okay, so let's talk about the conglomerate / collective that you're in. Who's all involved in that? Does it have a name?
No, it really doesn't. It's mostly quite a few producers from up in the DC area with Tone PR. And I think I just kind of bring that different sound from the group, from, just being from a different place, different style of music, kind of just creates that good balance where it's like, we have the go-go drums, we have this pocket of music, and then you just drop these crazy melodies from the South and stuff. And it creates a really dope balance.
So is it a lot of collaboration that's going on? Are you sending tracks back and forth and you're adding keys and they're adding drums, that kind of thing?
Yeah, mostly I'm doing like a lot of samples or a lot of melody stuff, and then they're doing like drums, and we have a bass guitar player who just kills bass lines. There's another key guy in there as well. He's heavier on the chords, and I'll just play melodies on top of the chords, or I'll lay chords, or something like that.
And you've already had some successes with them. You've had some placements with them.
Well, we just did the Miguel record. Probably.
Congratulations. That's pretty major.
Appreciate it. We did that a couple months ago. And then the Cole record, and we have 2 more records that I can't speak on, but they're in the play right now.
So there's this conversation that is ongoing. That's really saddening. But you see it all the time with producers who are, either asserting what they would do in a situation where there's a split. You know, if I collab with somebody, I'm giving them 50-50. If I collab with someone, they're not getting nothing. If I collab with someone, they're getting 10% only because I did all the work. You know, that talk. And I think it creates a lot of anxiety for artists and producers that haven't yet been in that situation, because it automatically puts all this pressure in their head about what's going to happen. Some hypothetical where, you know, they work on a track with somebody and then it comes time to negotiate splits, and it's a whole fight. As a member of a collective, you're collaborating, you're finding success. What kind of compromise, or what do you have? Do you go on a song by song basis for splits, or do you just have some kind of understanding that everyone sticks to, and it's consistent and there are no questions or hurt feelings?
Well, one thing I love about Tone, this is my first time being like in a collective. I've had a duo situation in the past, and everything was split, you know, 50-50 between us. We were doing a lot of creating together. So that was automatic split. But when I signed with Tone, and it was just like a group agreement and stuff like that, like splits were kind of understood what it was from jump. Like, so I love the way that they set that up. You know, you have a cool contract and everything that comes through, and everything's 50-50. Everybody, like, if it's 5 of us, we're splitting it 5 ways. If it's 3 of us, we're splitting it that way. If it's whatever. So I love that. And Tone's really dope about that, because like I'll play something for Tone, or, you know, maybe put it in a play where it could get placed. And he's like, bro, you're getting 25 off of it anyway. You know, like, just, it's all good just for making that play. So I haven't really ran into it yet with anybody, but I've heard a lot of stories from being in rooms with other producers and things of that nature. And that definitely is a headache. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, I did this much of the record. I know I did a record with Tone, and like, bro, I got an equal share, and I literally added 1 line of keys. You know what I mean? Like, I added a few more things, but when the record came back, the only thing they kept that I added was like the line on top of the keys. We got the split sheets back, and I had equal percentage and share. So I mean, that's a blessing.
Yeah, I'm like you, where I work with a lot of producers, and I've personally not run into a situation where I had to really get into a real conflict with somebody over splits. But I hear about it all. Every time I'm online, it's like, if you just send me a loop, you're getting 20%. You know, if you're mad about it, kiss my ass, all this stuff. I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful to not be working with people like that.
Agreed.
This looks like a really long question. Since you are both in collectives, can y'all please touch on the differences between having one or multiple collaborators on a beat as compared to you sampling them? Are the splits the same? Do the situations play out differently? Ooh, yeah, I think we both have experience with samples, so.
For sure. I would like to shout out that my first ever sampled record came from one of your kits back in the day on Facebook. Shout out to Payne for that.
Oh,
I had no idea what I was doing, and I got one of your kits back in the day, and just used a couple of your samples in there. Shout out to Payne for that.
And it was on cassette tape.
No, it wasn't on cassette tape. It wasn't on cassette tape.
Okay, so in terms of, I'll share my opinion. When it comes to collaborating with producers, I would much rather be in a scenario in which you and I are collaborating and we get a placement than if I sample somebody, because chances are the person that I sample, I don't know. And they might even be dead. And whoever owns the master is one person I have to negotiate with, or the label has to negotiate with. And whoever owns the composition, and that could be multiple people, that's another person that the label has to negotiate with. And so that conversation's happening, and I'm not even in the room. Yeah. So when I finally get my post sample split, I might be cut out completely, and I didn't even realize what was happening. So when it comes to working with, even if I use a sample, from like a sample kit or something, I can contact that producer and have a conversation with them directly there are no surprises, and I want to, and there's actually a negotiation process, because I feel like we're on a at least a more equal footing. Sometimes it's not like that though. I've dealt with producers who I'll say, hey, I sampled you, or I used one of your samples. What kind of splits do you want? Because there's no README file. I love when there's a README file where it just says this is what I want in the event that you get plays. And they'll say something like, yeah, talk to my manager. I'm like, man, I don't want to. Never mind. I'm not sampling you anymore. I can't do that. I don't know. What's your experience been like with these sample packs and using them? Mostly it's good.
Yeah, mostly it's good. I've ran into 2 that I've used that placed, and I reached out to the guy on Instagram, and it's with the same person actually. I reached out to him on Instagram, and he was like, bro, whatever you want to do. And I knew kind of like he probably hadn't had any placements or anything. And I was like, bro, look, we'll just do 50-50. And he was like, cool, bro, cool with me. I mean, I probably could have tossed him 10 and he'd have been cool with it. But I was like, no, we're going 50-50 across. So, I mean, it's only fair.
Yeah. Okay. So what informs your morality here? Where, like you said, you probably could have given him 10%, but instead you gave him an even split. Why?
Bro, you just gotta do right by people, man. Like it's so much in this industry, bro, where people are. It's a lot of people. I won't say definitely not all, not even close to all, but it's so much like snake shit that kind of goes on in this industry and sneaky shit. And it's like, I remember when I didn't know, and I'm still learning. So to just screw over somebody because they don't know is just not. I wasn't raised like that. I'm not gonna be that type of person. Never have been. If anything, I'll get the deal done, and then I'll explain to him, bro. If another producer comes to you and asks you this is what you should, what you should want. Because I'll get a lot of sample packs that don't have a README in it at all, and it's like, bro, you can't. What are you gonna say if he placed that record and it goes number 1, and you sitting in your car listening to the radio, and you're like, oh, that's my sample. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's a risk. I mean, it's as risky as using an uncleared sample and not selling the label. I would say maybe even riskier, because I feel like culturally we in this culture understand sampling and not clearing samples is just kind of par for the course. It happens, but what we respect much less is cutting out one of our peers, one of our contemporaries. And it's unfortunate that I see a lot of that stuff happening, and just seeing it. Sometimes it blows my mind that there's a conversation that even entertains the possibility of cutting somebody out or encouraging others to do that. It's just I don't know. Is it like we're short-sighted? Someone recently said there's no money, or there's less money, and I didn't even want to engage them. They said there's less money now in the music business, and that's a reason why people are cutting each other's throats. And I'm like, I personally don't think that's why.
Nah, it's not. I mean, bro, you got a lot of just greedy people out here. Like, and that's just what it is. Like, you got a lot of greedy people who just, it's like, bro, we ain't got to pay him because he doesn't know any better. And we got to cut that shit out. Yeah. How do we cut that out? I mean, what do we as producers do to kind of, I don't know, encourage? Because we can sit on social media and argue all day and call each other names all day. But how do we actually work towards real change? How do we model behavior that's more informed and less informed by greed or by negativity and combativeness? Definitely everybody that you can possibly reach, and like you do on Twitter all day, you give a lot of game. Just more people like yourself and myself and a lot of others out there, just everybody you can reach, just give them as much game as you can. And I don't even hang around people who do shit like that, because I know for a fact, bro, if you'll scam old boy, you'll scam me too if you had the opportunity. So, nah, like, just you know, we can't change the world individually by ourselves, but, you know, we can just reach back and just do dope shit as best as we can and just continue to be good people as best as we can.
So switching gears, you make really organic and soulful sounding beats for the most part. What's your approach to making your beats sound so organic and real, especially when I know you're probably using a lot of digital gear, VSTs?
Don't think, just create. Like with the poetry beats and the R&B joints, I'm just not thinking. Like, I'm just feeling the music. Like, I'll figure out where the hook is, where the verse is gonna be, where everything is gonna go when I get to a point to where I feel like stopping and I feel like I have enough. But up until that point, I'm just vibing, get lost in the music.
Picking up on that question, what are some of your favorite either virtual instruments or plugins?
Definitely a lot of Studio Link plugins. There's a lot of sounds in each one of those packs. I love like the OVO2, OVO1, OVO3. I get a lot of Vox sounds, like vocal samples and vocal chops from Vocal Runs 1 and 2, Omnisphere 2, for the most part. That's pretty much it. And I use a lot of Logic Pro stock sounds. Like, there's some dope stuff in there too, especially with the newer update of Logic. Some really dope stock sounds in there that I use a lot of.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you what DAW you use. So you're a Logic guy.
Yeah, I'm a Logic Pro guy.
Why'd you pick Logic to begin with, or did you try different DAWs before you decided on Logic?
I had played around on FL Studio with like a friend of mine. He had it, but I had no idea what I was doing. I just couldn't figure it out. And I used to work at Guitar Center. And one of my coworkers was like, I used to make beats on keyboards all the time because that's just what I knew. I didn't even understand really what a DAW was or how to really do anything. And like my drums would be off when I would be playing on keyboards and stuff. Cause like there's no quantize button real quick. Maybe on some of the newer boards that are, but at the time, so I was just like, but it was just fun to me. And one of my coworkers at Guitar Center was like, bro, you should get a MacBook and just get Logic and like it'll all make sense. And I'm like, whatever, whatever. So I did buy a MacBook eventually and I got Logic and I was like, yeah, this is the greatest shit I've ever done or ever seen. It was just crazy because I could play stuff and then clean it up real quick, quantize and put things where they were supposed to go. And shout out to my coworker because that's how I got on Logic.
Yeah, I think we probably all have Guitar Center stories. I know my very first pair of monitors, which really elevated my production, was because of a Guitar Center employee. Here's a question. I might rephrase this a little. What would you do if you saw your content being used, whether it's a beat or whether it's a loop or something, and you weren't even aware of it? What would be your first step, I guess?
All right, so I have a funny story about this, and this was this year. This was recently. So August Alsina did an interview on The Breakfast Club, and it was like right before his album. It was right before the big entanglement thing went crazy, haywire. And he was like, oh yeah, a new album coming out, da-da-da-da. So I was like, I'm gonna go download the album. So there's like 3 songs before the album dropped that were available. There's a song on there called Sincerely. Well, Sincerely samples one of my poetry beats from YouTube from 2 years ago. Like the video is still on my Instagram from 2 years ago. I mean, on my YouTube from 2 years ago. And I actually got the guitar loop from a guitar player named Kerry Marshall. And a lot of people might know him. He's pretty big on YouTube for the R&B guitar chords. And so I immediately hit him. Like I heard the song and it hit me. I was like, yo, this sounds like my shit. Like I know for a fact. And I have a lot of beats on YouTube. And this was like I said, 2 years ago. So I'm like, I know this is my joint. I know it's mine. And so I scrolled through my YouTube. I'm scrolling really fast. I'm like, yo, I didn't do it this year. Might have did it last year. So I'm going through like all my videos. on YouTube, and I finally found it. I was like, I knew this came from my page. So I reach out to Kerry, send him the song. He's like, yeah, this is definitely my guitar. This is definitely your beat. The snaps are in the same spot. Everything's still the same. So at this time, it kind of made a little frenzy real quick on Instagram. And we found the producer. He contacted his attorney. I contacted mine. We found the producer who produced the record, and he like hits me in my DM, and no shade to him at all. He was like, bro, I didn't steal your beat. I didn't da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, it's cool, but I know I have proof right here, bro. This is my original beat for sure. And found out that a company had sampled my pack, sampled one of my beats and added the guitar riff and this, my whole beat basically, and put it into their database as a sample for a kit. And it was like a guitar loops kit or whatever, but they took it from my YouTube. So we're still in like kind of like fighting with that attorney battles, and I have paperwork and contracts and stuff going back and forth. It hasn't gotten settled yet, but that situation happened right there with the Sincerely record on August Alsina album. And so,
wow.
Yeah. And you can go listen to it right now.
Yeah, you said you had a crazy story. That's a crazy story.
Yeah, that happened a couple months ago. Well, as soon as this album dropped.
Well, I mean, I talked about, this didn't happen to me, but I talked about, no, stuff like that has happened to me, but it just got worked out. But I talked about this with Illmind, because I had somebody send me a pack that they made, and it was full of samples that they didn't actually create. And they were like, yeah, these are my loops, go ahead and use them. And, he said that was happening to him all the time, because he was one of the first producers with a high profile to really be releasing a lot of sample packs. And he's been doing that forever. So it's just, I guess, I think people think it's a lot less serious than it is to do that kind of thing.
Agreed.
And so I don't want to scare producers away from using samples from these libraries that other producers create. But sometimes it helps to really consider the source and figure out, whether the source is reputable or not, and just minimize the risk of finding yourself in a sample entanglement, let's say, because that can get ugly. It can reflect really poorly on your career. Like you said, it wasn't the producer's fault, but it still looks bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understood where he was coming from. I thought it was crazy that a company actually went on my YouTube though and sampled it and added it to their catalog. I'm like, yo, that's wild.
Like it was a company that maybe
it's like
we'd all be
company.
Aware of.
It's like I wish I could have the name off the top of my head, because I would definitely have no problem hearing that out. Okay. But
that's crazy.
I'll DM you though. Like I'll look it up. Like I have the files and everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd like to know, so I never ever get a kit from them. Here's a question about engineering. What are your thoughts on using these mastering services? Number one, do you engineer? Are you a master engineer? Do you master tracks, or do you focus more on tracking and mixing?
Mostly tracking and mixing for me. I have heard masters though that have like been through, hey bro, I got this mastered online for $35 or $50. I don't know. I really don't know. I guess they sound okay, but I would say send it to a real mastering engineer that maybe if you wanted some tweaks done to it, it could still be edited, versus, I don't know, maybe if you could reach out to them and be like, hey, turn the lows down a little bit or whatever, or the highs down some. I'm not sure, but I think it's a great tool though for people who, just want to get something kind of cleaned up really quick. I think that's dope if you don't know engineer who masters.
So now that we just told this awful story about loops and sample libraries, where do you weigh in on this pro or anti-loop conversation that just seems to never end in the producer community?
I see you post that on Twitter, I think yesterday or day before that. Man, just make dope music. I personally don't care. Like, I mean, whether you loop or like, I've used loops, I've used samples, and I play keys. So I mean, it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make a beat maker or a producer any less talented. Because I've been in rooms with some dope people, and I've watched them dig in loop packs. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really don't care.
Yeah, I mean, everybody from Marshmello to I don't know, name a hip hop producer is using loops. So
yeah, every last one of them. So I mean, it doesn't bother me, bro. I don't care. I think that's like the dumbest conversation and argument ever.
Okay, so let's move on to something smarter. A lot of producers are frustrated by the whole type beats keyword thing. They don't like it. They don't know which artists to target. They get frustrated. But you started targeting a type beat keyword that I personally would have never thought of, which is spoken word type beat. What made you target that keyword?
You know, what's funny is I was making a beat one day at the crib with one of my coworkers from Guitar Center. And it was a different one, though. It was one of my homegirls. And I was making an R&B beat, and it was just a little bit slower, a little bit vibier. And I was like, oh, it's not the tempo I need. I'm just throw it in the trash and just start on something new. And she was like, nah, it's dope. You know, like, just turn the mic on real quick. So I turned the mic on, and she spits a poem of it. And it was so hard. Like, it was just dope. And I was like, I'm gonna drop this on YouTube as a poetry beat, you know, whatever. I probably did like 2-3 more next couple of days. And I left YouTube for a little minute, probably like a year or two. And I came back to my page. At the time on my YouTube, I probably had 300 total views and probably had like 10, 20 videos on there. Like, nobody watched my beats on YouTube. And I came back and I clicked the About Me page, and I had like 130,000 views or something. I was like, did I like make a fool of myself? Did I do something funny? You know, people making, like, there's no way people are checking out my beats. So where did these views come from? And I click on like I'm going through my videos, and it's like Wale poetry type beat, 30K. This poetry type beat, 15K. This poetry type beat, 50K. And I was like, bro, you onto something. Like, I don't know what it is, but you probably onto something. So I kind of kept going with it. At this time, I was really trying to break into the music industry, so I wasn't really dialed into it as I am now. But I just kept dropping them just to see what they were going to do. And I hate that I didn't just go ham right at that moment, because instead of being at 7 million, I'd probably be like 20, 30 million. But I just started dropping a couple, and I would go back. And I remember the time when I took it serious, I seen I was at like 830,000, 840,000. And I was like, bro, people are really looking for this. Like, bro, it's a thing. And at the time, I can Google, just like now, I Google poetry, spoken word beat, or poetry beat, or spoken word instrumental. All my videos were coming up. And I was like, bro, you just got to rock out. Like, this, you found it. Like, this is your thing. Like, just kill it. And so I just kept going with it.
Yeah, because it's not like being an early adopter of, you know, Drake type beat 2021. It's really one of those lanes that other people just have not really tried to target, but there's a clear search volume for that. There's a clear demand. And some people might be thinking spoken word type beat. You recently had some success with a Jordan Dwayne record, which was a spoken word piece. And I believe that song ended up on VH1. So how did that song come together, and how did it end up on TV?
He's actually gotten on VH1 and MTV with that as well. Shout out to Jordan. We had been following each other on Instagram. It was crazy. And he had leased the beat from me. And then he was like, yo, I don't really know how this music thing works. I don't know about royalties, publishing, none of that. what city are you in? Can we just sit down and have a conversation? Like, I'll fly to you. Small world, he's in Houston as well. I was like, yeah, this is crazy. And so he pulls up, like we end up linking up, and he was like, yo, I want to put some money behind it, marketing, branding. Like, he's like a really, really talented, hustling, just grinding artist. And he was like, I'm going to get it on MTV. I'm going to get it on VH1. I'm going to do this. I'm like, all right, bro. You know, you kind of hear that sometimes from artists. But everything he said he was going to do, he has done it till this day. And I remember getting the first link when it was on VH1. And I was like, yo, this shit is really on VH1. Like, and we met from YouTube, and then met on Instagram. And then come to find out he was in Houston. And he has some more plays coming with that same record. And actually, he's in the recording academy now. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've just watched him just grind like nuts, bro, like a year, bro. Just it's mind blowing sometimes. It's like, bro.
So what I'm curious about the conversation that you had about the splits and royalties and all that. How did that conversation go?
We just broke it down. Like, I explained to him, like, get a BMI, get an ASCAP or something of that nature, you know, publishing. And we just went over all of the breakdowns of that, and I helped him set it up here. And he was like, bro, thank you. Like, I mean, he texts me that every couple of days. We just have regular conversations and just explain to him to, you know, make sure the music is, you know, uploaded properly and cleaned and mixed and mastered and all of that. And also, you know, getting it registered and all of the above. And everything we talked about, like, he went and did it immediately. And it's been a blessing to work with him.
So today I read something that gave me a headache. It was in one of these producer groups where a producer asked, you know, if I sell a beat exclusively, am I entitled to any royalties? And immediately a producer responded, no, you're not entitled to any royalties. And I've also seen conversations where producers will also assert that if you lease a beat, you're also not entitled to any royalties. Obviously, we know that's not true. But given that there's so much confusion, ignorance, so forth in the producer community, where did you learn all of your knowledge about publishing, about royalty collection, about intellectual property rights?
A lot from you, Tammy Latrell. I work with a few people, like my bro who owns this studio fully. He's put me on a lot because he's been in the industry in LA. Just picking up knowledge wherever I could find it. I know you have a lot of videos about it, and you've sat down and talked to other people about it. Tammy Latrell is amazing at it. She puts out a lot of knowledge about it. And a lot of, you know, just sit downs on YouTube, a lot, really. And then, of course, like, with personal experiences with people. And, like, I'm still learning a lot of stuff till this day. It's just so much information. Like, you definitely got to continue to learn new things every day.
And, you know, producers have a lot of misinformation floating around their community. So do recording artists. So do you ever find yourself in situations where a recording artist will reach out to you and they'll have maybe a misunderstanding of how, you know, splits work, or a misunderstanding of how the royalties work, and there's potential for there to be a conflict or a negative conversation? How do you navigate around that?
Never had a particular issue with somebody. It's typically the newer artists that come into it and they have literally just no idea. You know what I mean? I run into that a lot. I run into artists who are ready to put $5,000 to, you know, budget or market a record, and they have no ASCAP or no BMI, or they've never done a split sheet before. I run into artists who have no idea what a split sheet is. And so it's a lot of that where it's like, yo, FaceTime me later. Let's have a convo. You know, let's talk. Like, let me explain to you how this really works as best as I can, you know, help you at least to kind of get you on the right track. And then, you know, you can reach out for, you know, maybe a higher level of understanding after that. But it's more so that, I mean, I don't think I've really had any bad situations. I had one with a poetry artist. it's crazy. I met her. She was in her dorm room, like still in college. We would FaceTime every day. And I started producing these poetry records for her. And like she just kind of started to build a buzz off of like Instagram. Like when I met her, she had like 600 followers. And she dropped this record we did, and it shot to like 4,000 followers. And people was just reposting it. It was like the most organic marketing that you could ever ask for with a record, where people are just quoting your song and they're sharing it. So 8 months to a year later, she gets a deal. And so she had a record that I did that she hadn't paid for, but they wanted to put out. And I was like, what's going on with the situation? Where are you signed to? Like just kind of help me understand what's going on. And she just kind of shunned me like I hadn't helped you really build your career. I mean, I've produced every song that you put out. And it was like, I was like the little homie to her all of a sudden, like it was like, oh shit, really? Like, and so finally her label reached out to me and they was like, well, we just want to buy the song outright from you. No publishing, no royalties. I was like, I'm not doing that, period. Like, I'm not. Like, y'all can just not drop the song and we can call it dead or however you want to do it. But it was like literally her best song that she had to date. And they went back and tried to play some other things and it just didn't hit like that record was going to hit. And so we came to an agreement on the splits and my upfront money as well. But that was probably the craziest one ever because it was just like, yo, you get signed and now you like big homie, you little homie me. It's like, yo, are you serious, bro? How many beats I gave you for free? Like, like that was probably like the craziest thing. Like, it was like, yeah, God damn.
So in that scenario, was this an independent label?
She signed indie under a major umbrella. Like there's a major company that owns that indie label.
But were you were negotiating with the indie?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because I can't see a major doing that because they just don't even want to take the time to try to snatch your publishing or anything. That's so crazy to me that's even. Do you know what this? I guess they probably didn't tell you what the split was, but was the label taking ownership of all of the publishing of yours and hers? Because I can't imagine they were doing it and moving that greedy just to benefit her more than you. That wouldn't make sense.
I'm not too sure. I don't really know how that worked. But it was just a real foul, ugly situation. And I couldn't understand why. You know what I mean? Like, I had literally helped her build her career from her dorm room to now you having lunch with Meg Thee Stallion and Rock Nation brunches and shit. And it's like, now I'm the little homie. Like, bro, I did all of your records up until that point. And it's like, I don't. And she wouldn't answer my phone calls no more. None of that shit. I'm like, bro, are you serious? Like, that was the craziest shit ever.
Yeah. I've experienced that a lot, so I'm trying not to get sad all over again. But I mean, you stood your ground, and a lot of producers in that position might just say, man, whatever, I'll just take the upfront money and they can cut me out.
No.
You didn't. Why? What was informing you to just say, you know what, this isn't even worth it. I don't want to get into it. And you potentially walked away from whatever thousands of dollars they were offering you.
I knew it was more money later on to be made, but outside of that, of course, like we're all in this for the music business. Like this is a business. We definitely make money from this. But the record itself just meant more to me from the organicness of how we built it. Like, bro, she was in her dorm room when we did that record. And like, I was just more attached to the solitude of the music and just like, bro, I don't know what's her issue or, okay, now you own. So it's like, yo, I'm big and I'm bad and I'm dope. But it's just, I'm not built like that. Like the money wasn't going to move me. It was like, yo, if you want to buy it, like we can talk that as well. But I'm definitely getting publishing on anything that you guys drop that I produced, period. Like, I'm not playing that game with y'all.
Yeah. So back to back to the YouTube beats. You have a beat that went viral. It's about at 1 million views. Tell me about that beat. Why do you think that beat went so crazy?
Man, me and you, we had this conversation when we had our talk. I really don't know. Like, it's crazy because like some of my biggest beats on YouTube or some of my larger beats on YouTube are not per se like my favorites. Like I'll drop something and I'm like, oh, I know this finna hit. I know they finna love this. This gonna be it. And that joint hit 4K views and it just died. I'm like, really? And then you get one like that who's like, okay, y'all need to drop something. I'm finna put something out real quick. Oh, this cool, this dope. I'm gonna put it out. And then boom. And it's like with that one, I kind of watched it rise. Like he got to like 30K and it just kind of died off for a second. Then it was at like 60 and 70. And one day I got a text and was like, hey, bro, you see that beat at like 500,000 views? And I'm like, which beat? He's like, bro, Find Your Smile is really, really growing. I normally don't go back through my beat videos. I'm not gonna lie. I drop quite a bit. So I kind of don't really go back and check. Sometime when I'm on YouTube Studio, I'll get to the section where it shows you like your largest beats for the month or for the year. And I was like, damn, it's at 500,000. And next thing I know is at like 750. I was like, yo, this might be my first video that actually hits a M. And I think you said it's at 9 something now, so it's probably gonna hit an M. I had no idea. I had no idea it was gonna do that.
So let's talk about some of your popular YouTube uploads. Two of your most popular beat uploads are Summer Walker beat remakes. What made you start posting those remakes?
You know, what's funny is I like doing R&B beats anyway. Like that's my vibe. That's what I like to work on a lot of. And I was literally the first one I did was Girls Need Love Too. And I didn't think nothing of it. I definitely didn't think it was gonna do that. I was like, okay, you know, people gonna probably use this and cover it or whatever, da. And like I dropped it that night. Like I remade it. I dropped it probably like that one I did a couple days after. Playing Games I did that night. Bro, I did not expect that shit to take off like that. I mean, so many indie and a few major artists just like grabbed it. I was just like, put they, covers out and remakes of it. I was like, oh shit. Like, it actually stuck.
Okay, so speaking of that, those remakes actually opened some major doors for you and led to you getting placements. Tell me how making a remake of an existing beat led to you getting a placement on your original beats.
I'll speak on this one. Well, Playing Games, Summer Walker, that joint, Jacquees jumped on and got on Instagram and he posted it. Now, when it came out, there was a different beat, but the one that was on his Instagram, and it's still on my Instagram to this day, like you hear my tag and see him in the studio on it. And that was probably like the craziest thing ever. I was like, yo, this is nuts. And like I said, you hear my tag and I was like, oh, this is crazy. But the biggest one to me personally was Breezy. She did Playing Games as well. And, I DM'd her and was just like, oh, thanks for using my beat, whatever, da. And she was like, yo, send me some more shit. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, all right, bet. So I sent her a couple of joints and she was like, yo, this is my number, call me. And I called her, she didn't answer, and then she FaceTimed me. I was like, oh, shit. So we FaceTime, and bro, I'm back in LA, actually working with her tomorrow through next week in LA. So we've done probably 50, 60 records together, and it came from that remake right there. It's probably the craziest one so far.